Good evening, Broncos country. Welcome to another edition of Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS, a la carte. My name's Kev Dan. Welcome, or thank you for joining us here on this Tuesday night. Free agency is more or less wrapping up. We're kind of in the middle of it. 90% of everything's figured out. There's some things that are waiting pieces to fall into place. Not really Broncos-centric. We might touch on some of that tonight. But, of course, guys, as always, we want to hear from you. Post your comments, post your questions. We're going to be talking mostly about free agency, but also maybe leading into the draft a little bit as well. And now that we kind of get an idea of what the Broncos strategy might be. And to be honest with you, I have no idea what their strategy is because looking at all the different, just the rankings and the mock drafts and everything, it's like everybody has a different name for the Broncos. So it's going to be a really interesting draft for us to watch for this year. Guys, make sure you check out Breckenridge Distillery 5280 Broncos blended stuff is freaking delicious. If you're in Colorado, go pick yourself up a bottle, the blue bottle, the orange bottle. If you don't like whiskey, don't worry, guys. They got the Broncos vodka as well, the Broncos Blizzard vodka. So you guys can check that out as well. But before too long, 5280 will be gone, and they'll be bringing out next year's version of the Broncos whiskey. So get this bottle while you can, guys. I am joined tonight by the awesome co-host, Mr. Adam. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Kev Dan?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Just enjoying the day. It's a little windy, but you know what? That's okay. Could be worse.
I saw a dog in a house fly by a little bit ago.
Really?
Yeah. It was interesting.
Was there maybe a witch as well? Yeah.
I saw the house and just came inside. I didn't even.
And it's like I'm done. I'm
done.
I'm not messing with it today.
No, I didn't need that question. I didn't need that question answered, so we're good.
I love it. Well, we're gonna change things up a little bit here, everybody. Normally, I'm the one, pushing the conversation right off the bat. You've heard enough from me already today. Let's hand this off and do a little different there. Adam, man, what's on your mind? Let's start with you, dude.
Hold on. Oh, I got it.
Yeah. Oh, you figured out what you're going to talk about? Okay. I give you like 3 days heads up, and you're like, oh, yeah, I'll go with this.
High and tight all the time. 5 points of contact. Honestly, we just got done with free agency. So how are we feeling? Obviously, we had got 3 big names, but of the guys that were maybe not as big a name, who are we thinking maybe was like a really, really good heady re-signing of the guys that we brought back? I mean, for me, Matt Peart, I think is going to be one of those really under the radar signings, because when you look at the 3 things that he does, he can play both tackle spots. So he plays right side and left side, which you always need. You need a guy that can play both. He plays in the heavy sets, in the hippo sets, as the blocking tight end. And after that horrendous debacle in Kansas City, which we don't talk about anymore because it's gone and it's done.
No, we don't.
We don't talk about that anymore. They put Peart in on that side, and that seemed to have fixed the problem. Yeah. So for all of those 3 things, for a guy that can contribute in several different phases of the game, that they signed for about $3 million, that is a ton of value.
No, I totally agree. And he's one of those names that you're talking about under the radar guys. I had seen him on the list of people we needed to re-sign. And he's one of those guys that you're like, oh, I didn't know that he was somebody that we needed to, worry about re-signing or not. Or he just kind of fell by the wayside in all the conversation, right? One of the big ones, DJ Jones. Is DJ Jones going to re-sign with the Broncos, right? When it came to re-signings, that was really the big one, the big name right there. But you're right. Matt Peart, I think, here's the thing, not to talk about that Kansas City Chiefs game. But if you look at the tape, not Matt Peart, just whoever was on that left side had been, given up, the position on that side multiple times. And the fact that we didn't have a field goal blocked before that Kansas City game at the most crucial moment is really kind of shocking. And so when you do see a player be able to get inserted into that position like Matt Peart, and turn things around to where I don't think we had another one the rest of the season, right? that says a lot about a player. And I think, when you're looking at re-signing him, yeah, he doesn't deserve a ton of money, which $3 million is still way more than I'm have. But that's a good name, man. I like it.
And that's always the part of free agency that always kind of gets a little lost sometimes, is that we love to get caught up in the Tala Hufangas and the Dre Greenlaws and those guys. And don't get me wrong, those are fun. I'm
sure.
But at the same time, like with anything, it's there's more than just your 22 starters on either, or your 11 starters on either side of the ball. You kind of have to fill out your roster. Unfortunately, injuries are a thing. So when you have those really solid depth signings like that, I mean, you still have to bring those guys back. You still have to sell those guys on coming back. So
yeah.
So I mean, it's just another great signing that they've done, that they had. So
no, I'm gonna, look, you can't mention Broncos re-signings without talking about 𝑩𝒓𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒐𝒔. I mean, you want to talk about a flying under the radar re-signing the Broncos had? 𝑩𝒓𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒐𝒔. And Sean, I imagine, I don't see Sean in here right now, but I imagine his Fabroni senses are tingling right now somewhere. There's someone somewhere is talking about 𝑩𝒓𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒐𝒔. Who is it? Sean, whenever you see this, think
right.
of me, man. But no, I mean, it's good to see, look, you're looking for continuity. Long snap is one of those things that, you could say you can go out and find anywhere, but it seems to be a position that teams tend to stick with, once they have their guy. And he seems to be just like that. Now we could talk about DJ Jones, but I want to throw this name out there for you in terms of under the radar. I knew it. I knew somewhere Sean was like, they're going to talk about him.
Somewhere
did, Sean.
Somewhere the Fabroni signal just signaled up in the sky. I'm being called.
Someday we'll get him on the show. Seriously.
Yes.
How about, because I wasn't sure where the Broncos would go with this name a month ago, right? Couple different ideas. Where, could they go over here? Could they use this guy as trade bait? Blah, blah, blah. Jarrett Stidham. When you're talking about continuity, this was, I think, a really good idea. And I'm glad they were able to work something out with them, a reasonable amount. But look, this is a guy that understands the Sean Payton system, man. And that's a tough thing to do. So to have that continuity once again, dude.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, finding backup quarterbacks, it's not always just a matter of finding a guy that is okay with holding the clipboard. Sometimes it's about finding a guy who can come in on a moment's notice, who's familiar with your system, and is probably like a fringe NFL starter, like probably could step in on another team and be fine. Stidham fills all of those things, and God forbid anything ever happens to Bo, but we have a guy back there who, Stidham is who he is, but to kind of put it in perspective, even when it was an open competition last year in camp, he took Bo to his limit. He didn't just roll over. He made Bo earn that. So that's a testament to Stidham being able to play a little bit.
Yeah. You think it definitely had a positive influence on Bo, right? And nothing about Bo's personality that, look, I haven't met the guy personally yet. Hopefully somebody that'll change. But, from what I see on TV and how he presents himself,
right.
He did not expect to be given that job, right? However, when you have somebody who is literally fighting to take that position, if you are not ready, that's going to make sure that you are actually on the ball and you're going to fight to earn that job. But then what does that do for the other guy who is fine for that? Think about the progress he got, the exposure he got with the first team players, and just all those reps that he got that he otherwise wouldn't have. So look, Jarrett Stidham isn't, you're right. He's not this amazing superstar quarterback, but he could be plugged into a team somewhere that really needs a quarterback and probably do okay. He could be run of the mill, number 16 to 20 overall quarterback and win you some games. But that's what you need in a backup. You need somebody who's just going to protect the football. So look, I'm really glad that they re-signed him.
Yeah. And especially when it was kind of a not necessarily an open conversation between like if Zach Wilson would be brought back or like what they would do with him. I think for me it was kind of like the easy choice between him and Stidham was that listen, Stiddy can be that backup and can come in at a moment's notice and come in cold. For as much potential as a guy like Zach Wilson has, we saw that he has a wow throw in him every quarter or so. He also has a wow throw in the opposite direction every quarter because and with as much rehab as was being reported that he needed, I just don't know that necessarily the potential really merits him being on the roster. So you do need a backup quarterback. Everybody would love to have a backup quarterback and two capable guys back there. Denver is really going to be one of those teams that has the luxury of having a guy back there.
Yeah. Sean, I see your question. I want to get to yours in a second. I want to pull up Michael's first because it's kind of on track with what we're talking about. Michael says, to be honest, with our track record with quarterbacks, I worry Bo will be a one-hit or season wonder. What do you think, bud?
Well, I've heard that criticism, and I think that is a valid criticism. However, I would like to pair that with every year, like there's seriously maybe 7 or 8 teams that have that guy. Developing that guy is very, very difficult. And even when you do think you have a guy, you could have a Mac Jones situation. Not that I'm saying that Bo Nix will be Mac Jones. I'm just saying you have guys who come in, do well, and for whatever circumstances. I would say right now, though, I would really pair that against that almost every sophomore slump comes with an extenuating circumstance. If everything plays out as it should right now, as we think it will, I don't know that I necessarily see that happen. I don't think you also saw Bo's trajectory really like level off towards the end of the season. I think if anything, you saw him playing better towards the end of the season than he did at the beginning of the season. So with an off season, with getting his ankle cleaned out, so now he's fully healthy now. And just like I said, they're adding pieces around him. Now you have a security blanket in Evan Ingram. You're gonna have maybe Troy for all the rookies with another year in the system. Like honestly, like anything can happen. It is football, but I don't necessarily see it. I don't see it being as big a worry in this as I would with like another player. So.
No, that's when you see a player continue to improve. It's one thing maybe if he leveled off in the middle of the season, like you were talking about, right? But he did play pretty well consistently. I mean, he had a couple bad games, but they were few and far between. And it wasn't even so much that he played a game bad. It was maybe a couple key mistakes at bad times. Whereas you look at the rest of the stats there, he actually did really well, right? It just maybe a bad interception or a bad sack or just a bad read. Got to keep in mind, we were like 3rd in the league, guys, when it comes to the Denver dropped passes.
Yeah.
3rd in the league when it comes. So imagine if we got half of those back, what the Broncos could have done last year. So you improve that stat, right? You get the wide receivers to catch the ball when it hits them in their hands. At least, 100% more effective than they were this last year. And, you're still in the middle of the pack, but that's a whole lot more production. And that alone would have an amazing impact on Bo continuing to improve and not feeling the sophomore slump at all.
Just as a testament to the kind of player that we all think that Bo can be, I mean, the Denver offense under Russell Wilson led the league in punts. Like we're one of the league leaders in punts for 2 seasons. Even with that beginning part of the season where Bo is kind of in his infancy, still getting his feet wet, our offense did not nearly look as bad as the best that it looked with Russ. So again, yeah, anything could happen, but it's just hard to see that trending down or something catastrophic happening to cause that. I'm sorry, I can't, I don't see it as of right now.
Yeah, well, anything can happen, but it's a fair thing to ask, a
Yeah.
fair thing to be concerned about.
Absolutely.
But let's say worst case happens. Let me phrase it to you this way, Adam. Worst case happens.
Worst case.
Bo Nix definitely has a sophomore slump. I don't say that he sucks. I'm not saying that he's just going to totally do a 180 and be a worthless quarterback where we're like, maybe we should start sitting him, but he has a slump, right? Maybe we only win 9 games this year. We miss out on the playoffs. That's to me like worst case. What are you thinking when it comes to Bo?
Typically, when you think of regression in sophomore quarterbacks, you almost kind of go back to that the team itself sees a decline, and there's extenuating circumstances within the team. So I would almost say that there would have to be almost like a catastrophic thing on another side of almost. I would say if you lose like a PS2 or a Zach Allen on the defensive side, or maybe you lose like a Garrett Bowles or a Cortland Sutton right away on the offensive side. Yeah, that and immediately kind of throws everything into turmoil a little bit. So, but again, the team itself is still kind of trending up. So, again, the NFL is one of the tougher leagues for a reason, and there will be 5 new teams in the playoffs probably.
Yeah.
But you also kind of have to just look at the division, look at who got better, look at who didn't get better. Like the Chargers and the Broncos were in competition for Evan Ingram, similar contract that was offered from both sides. It didn't seem like he was very conflicted about who he picked. So, all I'm saying is I think Denver got markedly better. I don't see anybody getting as better as them, and I don't know that any other team really has the potential to get even better than where they're at now, too. Yeah. I obviously Buffalo and Kansas City will be there. Maybe Kansas City, maybe. Maybe. Yeah. But I mean, that playoff game was close up until halftime.
It was.
And that was with one arm tied behind our back with a rookie quarterback with no cap space. Now we're gonna again. So
yeah,
Kansas City wanted no part of us last year. They wanted no part of us in the playoffs. They made every mention that they wanted no part of us. And again, we're just gonna be better. So
yeah. And you got didn't Bo Nix? Wasn't he playing? Let me bring up this comment. Where'd it go, buddy? Oh, I thought I had it saved. I'm sorry. Here we go, no. D-Rock. Even though we lost, Bengals game was my fave. Wasn't Bo Nix playing with? I heard maybe like a broken back. Like, didn't I hear that somewhere? And he was improving at the end of the season.
And if you had those 2 throws that he has to Marvin Mims, one for the deep touchdown, one that ties the game. If you would have, Bronco fans had been begging for that for years, and I'm very stoic, as you know, I'm very stoic. But that play where he gets it to Mims, I just blew my mind. I am sitting there losing my mind, thinking to myself, like it was that moment in the Matrix where Neo finally, like, he shows that he's like the dude, and they're like, oh my god, he's the one. That was the moment. I was like,
that's it.
That was it for me.
That's it. I like it. Look, and Christopher makes a good point here as well. Look, Bo knows that he's a starter. We all know that Bo's a starter. So there's none of this splitting reps at training camp. There's no quarterback battle. Stidham is the backup 100%. Go out there, get as much experience with Bo and his receivers as you freaking possibly can. And just continue to build, like what Sean Payton was talking about. They don't want to, you know, they don't necessarily want to pick up where they left off. They want to be better than where they left off. And that's exactly the right mindset. Now, I do want to make sure we have time for this because kind of talked on it a little bit, and then Sean brought up a question. Right here. Is Evan Ingram going to be Sean Payton's Jimmy Graham? What do you think?
You know, I think if anybody has the capacity to do that, and I think from what we've seen him do in his time at Jacksonville and in New York, I think the possibility is very much there. If you could split him out wide, we saw New York do that with him a ton.
Yeah.
He was arguably the best receiver in the Jacksonville stead of whatever. In their roster. And I mean, if you see the things some of the numbers that he put up, not this past season where he's been hurt, but the 2 seasons before that, those are very, very respectable. That's not even as a comparison to what we've seen the Denver tight end room do the past couple of seasons. It's a more of a testament, like these are really, really good numbers. So
yeah,
I think there is the capacity for him to have to be a Jimmy Graham type of receiver. I honestly think Denver's going to have more weapons than that.
True. That's a very fair point. I think the interesting thing that we touched on just a little bit ago, when you have a player like Jimmy Graham, like Evan Ingram, who he's not like the number one free agent out there, right? But he definitely has 2 very interested big name teams interested in him.
Yeah.
A year ago, he would have laughed at the Broncos. Like, you don't even know who your quarterback is right now, and you want me to do what? Like, no, I'm going to the Chargers. Like, there would have been a second thought about it, right? And now all of a sudden, we start to see players, specifically I'm talking about Evan Ingram because we know of the competing offer that he had, decide to go to the team that only has a second-year quarterback, right? Has the head coach that is, I think, I don't want to say he's tougher on the team, but you do hear reports about how he runs practices tougher, right? They're high intensity, like he runs his ship tight, right? And not to say that Harbaugh doesn't. I can't remember Jim or John or James or Joan or Jack or whatever, whichever one's out there. One of those Harbaughs.
One of them.
Very respectable coach too, right? So something happened. Something's going on in Evan Ingram's mind to say, you know what? I think my better chance is with the Broncos. They're going to treat me better. I have a better chance of winning. I have a better chance of winning a Super Bowl. Whatever it is, there is something there that Denver now has that players want to come here. And we've been talking about it, but we're finally seeing it.
I 1000% agree. And guys want to go to where they're going to be treated well and where they have a chance to win. I had to throw that. Sorry.
Good.
I was saying something. I mean, players want to be treated well and be paid well, and to play on teams where they can do well. And if you have two similar teams, similar numbers, and you pick one over the other, I think that seems pretty self-explanatory to me. So I don't know. Exactly. I did see this in the comment. Now, does this refute all the Gronkowski news that we have seen? I think so. I think it does. I'd say so. I'm not 1000% sure. I don't have a source. Okay, I'm not that connected. Not that connected yet. But I'm gonna go with no. Going with no.
Look. I'm just gonna throw this out there. If in some weird universe this happens, do not be a fan that refers to us as the Broncos. Okay, the Broncos. No, don't do that. Okay, I saw that floating around out there. bad. Okay. Bad Broncos fans. Okay. Don't do that. But yeah, no, there's absolutely,
Okay.
I would say, a negative 5% chance of Gronkowski coming to the Broncos, much less coming back to the football in general. Now, I've been wrong before, so don't hold it against me if I'm wrong.
Hey, I've been wrong before too. And we're
no.
I know it doesn't.
I don't
I know it
believe
doesn't seem like. I know it doesn't seem like it because but I do get it wrong occasionally, and so I'll even have fun with it.
Okay, there you go. I like it. So yeah, come back to us if Gronk comes out of retirement and goes to the Broncos. But look, and then we don't really have time to talk about it right now. But this is a good question that's going to lead into the coming conversations.
Yeah.
Will Sean Payton draft any tight? Like, what is the draft strategy? And I can't answer this with a simple yes or no, Chris, because a number of things have happened. Broncos have filled their roster with some very key strategic upgrades, right? And again, assuming they stay healthy, knock on wood, multiple places. And you're kind of left in a situation where you don't have to draft for a need. Like, you can draft based off of best player available. And you can see that in all of these mock drafts, man. If you look at, like, I'm not a mock draft guy, but I pulled up like 5 or 6 of them, and they all have different names. Every single one of them has a different name, and it's not 𝐠enty, it's not Warren. I think one of the tight ends. It's not either of the big 2 tight ends that we're talking about, right? Yeah. So, look, I don't know what they're gonna do. Nobody really does right now.
And like we were talking about earlier, those are good problems to have. If you can go into the draft, especially for like a very premium position, like a defensive tackle or offensive guard or blue chipper free safety, guess what? Denver isn't beholden to, I can't add this guy because he just doesn't fit right now. I'm going to have to make it work with somebody who maybe isn't as good. But obviously the most glaring of those are running back. I don't think that's a stretch. So ideally, Kevin, if you could just magically summon somebody at number 20 that plays running back, you are picking who?
Look, I'm not gonna go with 𝐠enty.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos did that. Who is Warren, the tight end from Oregon? Is that his name, Warren?
Tyler Warren is the tight end from Penn State.
If I could, I'd go with him. Like, and I know that's still, like, you can draft a running back later on in the draft. He may not be your number one, like, for the long picture, right? Like long-term solution at running back, but someone you could develop into a solid number 2, as then you address the running back position in next year's free agency. But I think you have someone like Evan Ingram, who is 30, has probably, again, staying healthy. I'm looking at him having 3 or 4 good years left. That's plenty of time to get another tight end, let him, get that experience, get that exposure. Don't have to rush him out there. Learn from Evan Ingram, learn the Sean Payton system, which is going to take at least a year.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I would rather do that, and then not have to worry about having another tight end problem in the next 2 or 3 years where who's in free agency, or are we going to go through the draft now and who's available then? And like, let's draft someone now. The running back position can be worked. And remember, guys, with the running back by committee that Sean Payton does, if you don't have a true top tier number 1 running back, you can still make things work. You can put Marvin Mims back there, right? And that's not a bad thing. I'm not dogging Mims. Like, I'm just saying, like, you have options. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, man. I'm not going to go running back in the first round, even if it's 𝐠enty.
I've thought about this. And there is a Ferguson who does have some ties to Bo Nix.
Yep.
So and I don't know that I ever got really too married to the idea that your tight end has to be your joker, but I know that is a guy. I know that is something that they're looking for. But it's interesting that you bring up the maybe not bringing up or not getting a guy at 20 and maybe looking like developmentally later on, especially at tight end. For me, that's where like a guy like it's not Mario Fannin, but I know his last name is Fannin, and he plays for Bowling Green. And looking at his draft profile, played outside, played inside, functional inline blocker, set reception records because they just moved him all over the place. So, but a guy that may need some work in a conventional offense. That sounds like a developmental pick that you make somewhere along the line, and you just stash him until you need him for a rainy day. So these are all good problems to have.
They sure are, man. They sure are. Hey guys, we're gonna wrap it up with some closing thoughts here in just a second, so don't go away quite yet. Couple announcements I want to pass on to you guys. First off, next week we're doing a full-length free agency recap show. We'll be touching on the draft as well, kind of going more of these topics that you guys are all wondering about, because I know that's the next big thing on the NFL offseason schedule coming up. So we're going to start looking at what the draft really looks like and some of the competing thoughts. And I think you guys this is the first year in a while where, you know, you don't have 80% of the sources really honing in on one player for the Broncos. Pretty much you're going to hear 50 different names over the next 5 weeks. And that it's really going to be a surprise who the Broncos draft. And that's going to make it really, really fun. I mean, it was last year, you know, we weren't too sure what they were going to do at quarterback, but there'll be just as much excitement this year, if not more so. So next week, we'll be doing a full hour-long show on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. No promises yet because I haven't heard back from him, so don't hold me to this, but we might get a very special visit from 𝑩𝒓𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒐𝒔 himself hopping on the show and giving some of his thoughts from free agency. So you're definitely going to stay tuned to see if we are able to get him to come in and join us next week. Also, guys, don't forget Breckenridge Distillery 5280 blend. Thank you guys for sponsoring the show. Breckenridge Distillery is fantastic. They make tons of great whiskeys, tons of great drinks. If you have a chance to go up to Breckenridge and go to the brewery itself or the distillery itself, remember they got a restaurant there as well. So they not only have great drinks, but great food. These guys are fantastic, but pick up the 5280 bottle now, guys, before it's gone, because they will be doing next year's Broncos whiskey, and it won't be 5280 like it is this year. At least that's as far as I know. They do a different, label every year. So look out for that, guys. Make sure you follow us and subscribe to us and like us and do all the things because that's what I use to feel good about myself. The likes that we have.
That's what I use to feel good about myself.
So no, seriously, thanks to everybody. We made it to 23,000 followers on Facebook because of you guys. The YouTube keeps on growing even during the off season as well. And that's all thanks to you guys. This is our 10th season. And we have a ton of, giveaways that we're kind of planning in the background and prizes and just things that we want to do to say thank you to you guys throughout the whole season. So stay tuned. Early April, we're putting out information for the first prize. It's going to be centered around the draft. So if you want a draft cap that they're going to release here in a few weeks, stay tuned. We'll be letting you know how to possibly win a draft cap from us here at Bourbon, Broncos, and OBS. That being said, let's start closing this thing out, man. Adam, dude, here we are. Free agency more or less wrapped up for the Broncos. What are you thinking?
I can't think of a time where I've been like more pumped about free agency. Last year I was in an office that had I think was a converted bomb shelter at one point because I got no signal about everything on the day of free agency. So when your hobby is breaking Broncos news, yeah, you know how terrible that is. Thanks a lot. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I love where I'm at. Anyway, final thoughts. It's a big departure, and also a fact that's kind of been obscured a little bit is how team friendly all three deals were with Hufanga, Greenlaw, and Ingram. So while we didn't have a ton of cash, but we did have some capital to work with and made it work. And not just getting the second tier free agents, but the 3 tier 1 guys that were out there. And we brought them in on team friendly deals to fill big holes on our roster. So combine all those things of now going into the draft with still a lot of flexibility on what you can do as far as personnel and with your money too. So having some cash, having a plan, and having a lot of options is just like, it really kind of seems like the possibilities of even where we think this thing can go is kind of like sky's the limit a little bit.
It is, man.
Like,
I'd agree.
am I? How do you feel
No.
about that?
No, look, you're right. We didn't break the bank.
Oh,
And that, you look at a lot of people are giving the Patriots big kudos for free agency. Okay, well, one, when you're like one of the worst teams in the league, it doesn't take much to improve. And two, when you have that much cap space, you better be spending a lot of it. And that's what they did. So they improved the free agency, and that's great and all. But I think what you see what the Broncos did, they were way more strategic and careful about it. Kind of like we had to be. We only had $40 million, but now we're sitting at 15.5, right? And so there's plenty of space there by the time you sign the draft class and everything like that. Plenty of cap space for this season. Make any other moves that you need to if there's like a trade you want to make in the season or something like that. Like you have cap to work with. And then next year, the way it's looking, again, this is sitting right now, cap space for next year, $82 million. You want to talk about going shopping? Next year. But you're right. The Broncos didn't break the bank for any single player name, and we got steals out of them. I think, you talk about health being a factor, but the Broncos athletic training staff has been phenomenal, keeping players healthy. You look at the owners replacing the field halfway through the season because of player safety, not because they have to. There's $500,000 just boom, replace the field. Done. No questions asked. This is the best spot for them to stay healthy than any other team, I think. So look, there's a lot of good things going on for the Broncos right now. And to look at $82+ million next year in cap space, we're going to be having a fun free agency this time. There's going to be a lot more than like 3 or 4 names to talk about, I think, this time next year. So get ready for it, guys. Adam, thank you very, very, very much as always for tuning in. I want to give a shout out to our guy working behind the curtain, Gary, our marketing guy. Give him a shout out as well. So
you're the man, Gary.
For all of you see him in the comments, helping out and everything as well. To everybody tuning in, D-Rock, Chris, Clayton, Mike. I can't name everybody off. Derek, I think I already said you. If not Derek, James, you guys are fantastic. Seriously, keep coming back every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll be talking about the Broncos throughout the offseason. Before you know it, it'll be the draft, and you'll blink a time or two after that, and it'll be training camp. So get ready for it, guys. Broncos are taking back the West. You're starting to see the very beginning building blocks of that happening right here, right now. Adam, again, thank you very much. But, man, whoo-wee. I don't know about you, but I got nothing left to say other than this, as we always do, on the very strong Go Broncos!
Let's go, Broncos!
Take care, everyone. We'll see you later.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sip and go, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah, they know I'm a pro.